All right, I'm here at the Bellows. The bellows are bad. The gimbal bearing seized. So took the 6 bolts off that hold the outdrive on. I took that off. I disconnected the shifter from the outdrive. I took this nut off and tapped this in. And now I'm in the progress. I just took that off. I'm going to spin it around and take the other side off. And then there's a bolt right here that is a 7/16. Unfortunately, as you could see, mine is stripped. Not stripped. It just broke off. So I'm going to have to drill that, tap it out. Yeah, but this is about to come off, and then we will get into the bellows and pulling that that bearing. As you can see, the bellows are bad. You can see how it's torn. All right, we got that part off. There is a bonding strap that goes right here. It's just a little steel cable. I had to take that off too. And I had to peel the exhaust bellows off. They're just held in with glue, same as this. And this is in bad shape, so that is garbage. We are going to loosen that clamp and then use a slide hammer to take this gimbal bearing out. It will not move. So that's definitely bad. Honestly, I didn't know that there's a grease fitting right there. That's probably why that gimbal bearing is bad. But the bellows is bad anyway, so I would have had to have gotten in here to do this anyways. So don't feel too bad about it. Everything else looks pretty decent. I'm going to replace this just because, even though the this doesn't matter, not one bit. You see how it has holes in the bottom of it? It just lets the water out if it's in there anyways. So this just basically pushes the exhaust out under the water to make sure it goes under the water. So I am going to get a slide hammer and start working on this. I'll show you the progress. Okay, so this is the slide hammer here that I'm going to use. I bought it at Harbor Freight, pretty cheap. I'm going to insert it into there and then screw it in so it separates these jaws and pushes them apart. You see how it's starting to push them apart, and it'll latch onto those. And then I'm going to give it a couple good hammers. I'm going to set you up on this tripod. It's not the best in the world, but hopefully you'll be able to see what's going on. Okay, and the gimbal bearing is out. Now there is a grease hole right there. I don't know if it was lined up or not. Looks like it was. That's important when it goes back together. So the new bearing that goes in will be lined right up with this little hole right here. But it's literally as simple as that to take this gimbal bearing out. All right, now I got to take this off and reinstall. Pretty simple. 5/16 on the band clamp. These are stainless band clamps, so you might want to keep them. This goes here and here. There's a little phenolic plastic plate, and then they on the inside of that there's a washer on each side. So this plate and a washer on each side. All right, so this is the new bearing, heavy duty link belt. I'm sure they use this for all kinds of stuff, but it says fits most Merc Cruiser 77 and up, OMC, that's my part number, and all Cobra. This is an OM. It's a Volvo Penta SX, which is basically an OMC Cobra rear end. It's right after Volvo Penta acquired OMC, so this is it. Let's see if we can spin it, because I've tried several times. I cannot spin. I can't spin the other one. Not one bit. So I believe, I'm going to have to look. I believe this side goes in. Not positive. I have to look. Oh, wait. Yeah. I'll have to look. Nice and easy to spin. So this is good. This is important where this is, because it has to be lined up with the oil hole. There's the oil hole. Or not the oil, the grease hole. Grease hole, that needs to be right on there, and it needs to line up with the grease shaft. So you'll see which way that goes in. Here's some instructions. Let's see if it says. It doesn't say. Okay, so it does go in like this with those gaps facing aft. I'm going to make a mark on here with a Sharpie to show me where the actual grease hole is, and then I could see where the grease feeding tube comes in. So yeah, make that mark, and then I'm going to drive it in. I got to find something to drive it in with. I'm not a big fan of buying special tools when I feel like I can do it without them, and I feel like I can do this without the special tool. So I'm going to find something that I can drive it in with. Okay, so what I have here is a piece of 3.5-inch ABS plastic, which fits this almost perfect. So I still need to make my mark on here, but I'm going to drive this in with that. So twice you've seen in this video series I've used ABS. I just have it laying around the garage. Pretty handy. This is 3.5. Oh, damn it. Put it backwards. Okay, so my battery is about dead, but I'm not sure if you noticed, but I was putting it in backwards. So I popped it back out, flipped it around, and I drove it in. Same way I was doing with that 3.5-inch pipe, and you could see it's seated because there's a lip, and it's all lined up. So now I need to align this with the back there. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that just yet. Maybe by just sight. We'll figure that out soon. All right, so the bearing is in, and I greased it. You can see the grease coming out of it. I aligned it best I could via my eyeball. So I think that's good enough. Hopefully, we'll see. I put this on. I didn't put any sealant on this side because there's a clamp that keeps it tight to it. I'm only going to put the sealant on this side. I don't believe it's needed on this side. Put this on. This definitely doesn't need it. I lubricated these threads, and so the next part is I busted that bolt that keeps the shifter. Busted it off, so I sprayed it down about 2 hours ago, and you can see it's starting to move. So I'm going to work it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and unthread it this way. And so far it looks like it's going. Put a bunch of WD-40 on it to keep it well lubed, and that'll be out. I'll find a new bolt to put in, and then we'll put this back together, and then we will be ready for this to go back on. New O-ring before it goes on. Okay, so I am preparing to put this back on, and first I am going to put the Bellows adhesive on the drive bellows. I don't need it on the exhaust because the exhaust has holes in it. Anyways, this is Quicksilver Bellows adhesive. From what I understand, this dries fairly quick, so I don't have a whole lot of time to mess around. But I am going to put it on the outside of this and make sure I get it down in here and everything. And then I will do it on the actual turn part whenever I get it on. But I'm going to go ahead and slop it on here real well. Oh, it's a mess. So this is going to go in here. That's going to go there. Each side of this takes a washer and a rub plate. So I'm going to hold it in the fuse spots where it is trying to pull up. I think that should be good. Look at my gloves. Okay, change gloves, move on to the exhaust bellows. And then... All right, so I have everything but the shifter cable hooked up because I have to get a new bolt. I don't have one. This is tightened down. I got a new O-ring there. The boot is sealed. I'm going to straighten this back out so it could dry overnight. That's reinstalled. This and the angle sensor is reinstalled. And I pulled the bottom bellows through. Okay, so I am going to make a special tool to insert that back into the gimbal bearing. On these splines, the smallest part in between the two smallest splines is just shy of an inch. So I'm basically going to see if I can get a dowel rod that is And there's about 1.25 inches, almost 1.5 inches, that'll fit. I'm just going to get one that'll fit loose in the gimbal bearing. Loose, but kind of snug. And then I'm going to just sand the opposite end down to just shy of 1 inch so it will fit into the back of the transmission. So I'll show you what I make. So I said I wasn't going to buy an alignment tool for the gimbal bearing to go into the drive, and I also said I wasn't going to put Bellows adhesive on the lower exhaust boot, but I put that there and I made this. This is a 7/8 dowel rod I got from Home Depot, and I put tape on it to match the size of the old gimbal bearing, the one that I pulled out of here. And I'm simply going to I made a mark. You see that mark? That is 8 inches in. Measured this shaft and it's 9 inches, so I should have at least, this should be in the motor at least 1 inch if I can make it to that shaft. So I'm just going to tap this in here and get it seated. I could feel the them up against the I can hear that I am inside the thing, so it should be lined up now. Simple. $3 is what I have invested in this tool to make sure that I'm lined up, and this prop shaft should go in. So I'm going to pull this out, and then I'm going to dry fit this in here. And then I don't have a seal for this, so I'm going to put a bead of silicone right along here, just to make sure it seals up well. Okay. Alright, so it's lined up. It's getting ready to go in. I had to lower the front of the boat down to so it would be lined straight up. So I just use the wheel and the adjuster on the front, and it's looking pretty straight to go in. Now I didn't have to just manipulate it into place. Okay. Alright, so it is engaged with the engine, because when I spin the prop, it spins the engine. Now it's just a matter of getting it to go the rest of the way in. I think it has something to do with those bellows. Next time I do bellows, I'm gonna reinstall this while the bellows are still soft. They're soft. The bellows adhesive is still on them. I honestly think that's my whole problem here, is that the bellows are just, I really glopped the adhesive on there, and now I think I'm paying for it. So I'm going to get another strap and pull from the trailer, try to scoot it in. I messed with this out drive trying to get it on for like 1.5 hours yesterday, and I kept getting to a certain point, which I thought it was getting hung up on the bellows right here. So I took the bellows out, and it was still, then I slid it back in, and it was still getting hung up on that same spot. So I pulled the gimbal bearing out, and this is what I found. And if you put this bearing on, if you have it dead center, it slides on. If you have it at any slight, I don't know if you could tell, but it's just the slightest bit crooked, and it hangs up on a lip right there. right there, over and over. So if you have it at any angle other than perfect, like you see how it went. I mean, I tried forcing it. I had ratchet straps on it, anything I could do. Now, when it is at this point on here, the outdrive, or this is engaged a little over an inch into the splines right here. So where this finger is, it's engaged that whole way. So I figured that out by, I had the prop on the back, and I was spinning the prop, and it was all I could do to spin the prop, but the motor was turning over too. So it was engaged. So here's what I am going to do. I'm going to reinstall the gimbal bearing with that piece of pipe, just like I did yesterday. I'm not sure if I showed that, but I ended up installing it with that 3.5 inch piece of pipe, that block of wood, and then that mallet, and it installed it. But I'm going to install this, and I am going to get this all put back in into this point where it's instead of grinding on this to try to remove that little lip and everything. I don't think that's going to help. It is lined up enough that the shaft is going in, but it just has to be a hair better to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in. I am going to get this all back on, back to where it was, so it's just shy of mounting up. And then I'm going to put the strap that I have around it. It's in between the two bellows, and I was pulling it forward. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that strap around it and put a little tension on it, and then I'm going to get in and turn the motor over. I'm not going to start it. I'm just going to turn it over so it will do a whole revolution with the drive shaft. And this will be in neutral. You don't need it in gear because that drive shaft spins the whole time. It spins with the engine. So it's going to spin it over, and that should make, if it's cocked at an angle or like an upwards angle, anyway it's cocked, it's going to spin that over and take that binding out of it when it does a whole revolution. So that's my game plan. I'm going to go ahead and reseal these bellows, reinstall the gimbal bearing, and then I will show you how you'll get to see how I do it, and watch. Alright, so I'm right back to the point where I was earlier. Gimbal bearing is reinstalled. Bellows are back in. So here's this ratchet strap I had. It goes right around the outdrive and hooks right there. I'm just gonna tighten this up. Now, this is as far as it would go before. The whole time. I wiggled it, I moved it. I mean, I went all over with it. Couldn't get it to go anymore. It's got a fair amount of pressure. I am going to put this back in neutral so this doesn't spin. Not that it'll hurt anything spinning, but it's in neutral. So I'm going to spin the motor over, and you watch this. It should move forward just a little bit, and then I should be able to put this basically back together. Neutral. Very good.
We went up there.
Look, stop. I need her help. You see where the key is? Yep. Want to turn it?
Turn it this way?
Yep. All the way. me check something out.
I didn't like that because I couldn't hear you.
Let's know. Do it one more time. Just start it up and turn it off. One more time.
Start it up and turn it off?
Yep. One more time. Okay, do it again. Again.
Again?
Yeah, one more. Let it run for maybe 3 or 4 seconds this time. Again, one more time. And one more time. Go ahead, one more time. Beautiful. Thank you, baby girl. Did you turn the key back off for sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't put that on.
Yeah, I'll get you down. Don't worry. I'm not gonna let you fall. Thank you very much. So I don't know why it took all that. I honestly don't. Something was binding, obviously, but it is back in there. I'm gonna tighten it up and then hook up the garden hose and let it run for a little while, just to make sure that's good and seated. Pretty disappointing. That was a really, really challenging, and I don't know why. But also, there's I didn't put sealant around here because the front of where the drive shaft comes out sits in the bellows and holds it. So there's no need to put any sealant around there, because the only thing that needs sealed is the water intake, and has an O-ring. So no need for sealant. I'm just about done with this. Everything is tight there. I put the prep back on. I used the special tool that I made that you should see. I put it on. It's tight, so tight that I broke it, and that's okay. I can make another one if I need to. This is a 32 millimeter, I think. 30 millimeter. It's nice and tight. 13 turns on the shift linkage. At least that's what mine took. It's nice, and it lined up real well. Put these back on, and that should be it. Time to pull it out, fire it up, put it in the river or in the lake. I hope you don't have as much trouble getting yours back together as I did. But if you do, I hope some of this video helps you. I understand that you know, I look like an amateur, but I fix things every day, and this just gave me an unbelievably hard time. Thanks for watching. Hope this video helps you. Please subscribe if it does.